New ownership takes over and guy goes on vacation for 2 years due to stupid new rules. A family friend was working at the same company, from he was 26, up to when he was 64 when the below started. Part of the problem was the laws in the country increasing the retirement age from 62 to 65 when he was in his early mid-50s, and then again from 65 to 67 when he was about 62 to 63. The old owners were a family and run the business with benefits to the employees. From everything I have heard, I think they were giving an extra vacation week after every 6 years at the company. So on top of the standard 4 weeks, he had an extra 6 weeks at the time of the events. Also, people had access to 2 weeks of working at home office, when the job allowed them to, or an extra week off, for those that couldn't use it. So he was getting 11 weeks off each year. As a bonus, the family owners were allowing people above 55 to use their vacation time as they desired. All at once, with about a 2 weeks notice, which was just a courtesy, according to the guy, or segment it or even not use it and pile it up for when the retirement time came. Another issue we have in our country is that when you submit retirement paperwork to the government they take effing ages. So it is often the case that they may take over 2 years to calculate what to pay you and start paying you. Of course, they pay back that time, but it still is an issue. For the period they delay and calculate you are getting only the minimum amount. But the guy had already about 44 years of experience and a bit more ahead of him as an engineer, and a well-paid one, which meant a great retirement amount. So the owners allowed people to gather up their weeks of time off at the end of it and take 20 to 30 weeks off while submitting their retirement paperwork, so the money being paid would last them long into the calculation period. Of course, some didn't use it, but many did. So the company gets sold, because the owners saw some writing on the wall that their profiting wouldn't last more than 6 to 7 years and they wanted out. It was due to old age as well. New ownership, part of some Coca-Cola subsidiary, takes over and starts removing previous rules. At the guy's position, there were 3 of them. He, a second colleague, and a third one. They push out the second, fire him, and the third one has a heart attack a week later. R.I.P. They also go and dock his pay by 15% because he is making too much for a simple engineer. The 3 of them held a patent for the machinery used on something specific, a second one on how to make that machinery, and a third one on the process of the production of a small but significant part. The old owner had allowed them to put the patents on them when they invented a new, 30% cheaper and 75% faster, way of production years ago. So suddenly he is alone in that position at 64 and the company hires 6 people for him to train, in that position. At the same time, they give up until the end of the year for all the piled up vacation time to be claimed. Notice the wording, claimed is not used. So the guy was using between 1 and 5 weeks for the past decade. So he had gathered 87 weeks of time off, including the current year, but they hadn't looked at specific cases. So they get him the 6 new people to train and they tell him that he needs to have them trained in 6 months. He still has 2.3 to 2.5 years until retirement. So he just goes and takes 87 weeks of vacation time, with a 3 hours notice, on a Friday evening starting the upcoming Monday. Still no advance notification is required. They don't pay attention to it until the next Thursday when the CEO notices the 6 people sitting around all day and nobody training them. The phone calls start. Then emails. Then letters get added to the mix. Then home visits by low-ranking secretaries and such to deliver the letters. Then management visited his home. By week 7 the CEO has visited 3 times, but the door hasn't been opened once. His mother-in-law lives literally across the street, an old woman, and he and his wife are taking care of her, so most of the time they are over there and can see everybody visiting their house XD. The production is running on itself, but no upkeep is done on that critical part of it. Week 11 he says that line 1 out of the 2 breaks down. They start visiting his house 3 to 4 times a day. 2 weeks later the second line breaks down. He has a lot of friends inside and is getting constant updates. At that point, they have only 4 weeks of backstock to keep the rest of production running. It is December, right before Christmas and he goes in during week 13. He says he needs to take some things from his locker room, lol, and the CEO starts yelling at him. You are stopping your time off right now. You are coming back to work to fix everything up. So he offers to come back for 3 days under an agreement that the entire week will be returned to him to use for time off. The CEO reluctantly agrees and tries to push him also for the training. No budging, only fix things up and go on vacation again. By Saturday everything is fixed up and even leaves a couple of basic instructions on what needs greasing every week. And he is off again. A few weeks pass, the new year has come around and a line is broken again. He gets called back, and the CEO pretends like the previous deal will be used again. He goes in for 2 days, fixes everything, explains a couple more things to the team of 6, who by now have other duties, not to be sitting around all day, and when he is about to leave the CEO says tomorrow at 8 a.m. The guy says what? And the CEO explains you could claim your time off by the end of last year. You just ended your claim time off, so you are losing the remaining 69 weeks. The guy is furious and he just goes straight and reports the company to workers' rights. They are dumbfounded by the time off he has amounted and the lady serving him calls her colleagues to listen in. They laugh their asses off at his story. And they issue a verdict the next day. It usually takes weeks, but they had too much fun with this one. He is to get all of his time off, under the previous rule, for the time accrued up before the rules changed. So he has his 69 weeks, should be 70 due to him getting the one he worked on, renewed by their deal, but he lost that one, and he also has the 6 weeks from the new year. So he goes in with the verdict and gives it personally to a fuming CEO. According to the guy, steam was coming out of his ears. The CEO accepts unwillingly the deal with the guy coming in, for 3 days every 5 weeks off. If he is needed during his time off, tough luck. They should work to produce backstock. A full year goes by, that way and the guy is 66 at this point. He has been training the 6 slowly every 5 weeks, lol, and he is on his last visit before he takes the last 5 weeks off. The CEO goes to him and delivers personally the firing notice for the first day he will be back. He plays shocked and leaves for another 5 weeks. This one is a problem because if you apply for retirement, even with half a year early/less, you are losing significantly more than just that small period and he has about 10 months ahead of him for retirement. His last 5 weeks expire and he goes in to gather his stuff, only a coffee cup was remaining. He knew this was coming and he had taken everything over time. He gets an extremely big payout for the firing with no cause. The next day he sends a cease and desist letter to the company for the use of the 3 patents. He had talked with the fired guy, who had agreed with this revenge plan. He had also talked with the widow of the now dead friend and colleague, as well, and had both of them on board. He had been supporting the widow, but he didn't say anything to anyone. I found out very recently from the other guy about it. So now the company has to stop using those machines and the method with zero notice. All the competitors have found and built and patented their versions of the same, and if they don't find a solution, it is going to cost 40% more and take out double the time to produce the same part of the procedure of production. So they would need to double the lines if they go and use the old method, while they look for a new one. After just 3 weeks of looking to license the method of one of the competitors and not getting anywhere, stock being extremely low by that point, they struck a deal with the guy. He will be an external contractor, who keeps the patents to his name. He will be doing the maintenance on his own, will be paid by the hour, what he was previously making on a full day, and will be on call for maintenance while having one person there at all time for upkeep. He went and stole all 6 of the people he trained, and hired them in his new company, and put them to work back at that factory again, with almost double the pay they were receiving. He fully trained them very quickly and he was now getting paid a ton. That CEO was fired for almost stopping production. The deal was struck mere hours before backstock ended, and he also cost the company a ton of money by firing that guy. At the funeral of the old owner, many of the old employees met up and told their different stories, and apparently, there were 3 more similar cases with patent holders because the old owner treated his team extremely well. But he was the only one to string them on for almost 2 years by being out on vacation time and getting paid. All of them had a great laugh, including the widow of the owner and his sister, who were the other 2 partners in the factory before it got sold.